Madam Web's concept is pretty baffling. At least there is a precedent for solo Venom and Morbius stories, a template those movies could draw from. The movies didn't do a good job bringing those stories to the big screen, but if I was Sony and if I had the rights to the characters from the Spider-Man corner of the Marvel Universe, it makes sense they would go for movies about Venom and Morbius. Madam Web has never had a solo series. She's always been much more on the periphery than these guys, so crafting a solo story with her is puzzling. I get it, Sony wants to do something like the MCU, so they play the hand they're dealt. But this is like trying to build a tower with no bricks. So my suggestion, do not make a Madam Web movie. Instead, make a crazy superhuman heist movie. You can use Madam Web, but don't build an entire movie around her. She sees Ezekiel Sims is about to do something awful with an exotic spider, so she pulls some strings, the strings of fate that is. She pulls some strings, manages to get Black Cat, Silver Sable, and Private Eye Jessica Drew all in the same place so she can nudge them into stealing Sim's spider so he doesn't get evil spider powers. The fun part about Madam Web's clairvoyance would be her allies don't know she can see the future. As far as they know, she's just a blind elderly woman in a wheelchair. But where the movie played her future sight pretty basic, I'd want to get creative with it. She has to do fun stuff like push a shopping cart into the road so a car swerves and hits a fire hydrant. Then this businessman has to get out his umbrella when he comes out of the bank. Then something falls out of a window, bounces on the umbrella, right into Madam Web's lap. In this hypothetical, she's had her powers a while, so she'd be more adept at seeing the different possible futures and how to get there. You might ask why Madam Web would trick others into doing her dirty work if she's so powerful, but she's still in a wheelchair, and Sim's company, WebCore, is a high-tech facility with lots of levels, and Web hopes getting these three to pull the heist for her will work out. You've got a lot of different personalities that would easily clash with each other. Jessica Drew would want to bring in Black Cat to the police. Silver Sable is basically a mercenary. Black Cat and Jessica would both be nervous she might stab them in the back. After you've established your protagonists and Madam Web has gotten them together, Act 2, they've infiltrated WebCore, but everything falls apart because nobody trusted each other. Then they all go their separate ways. By then, Ezekiel is sending people after them because he thinks they might know something about the research that he's doing, and that, combined with Madam Web setting up insane Rube Goldberg machines to keep her agents safe, they all eventually rendezvous, a little more willing to work together at this point. Since the Madam Web movie was in love with the Spider-Man mythology gags, maybe the spider Ezekiel has is the same one that bites Peter. In my fix on Homecoming, I suggested the High Evolutionary was responsible for the spider that bit Peter. Maybe he works for Ezekiel, and when Ezekiel gets arrested at the end of the movie, he steals the spider, and canny audiences will understand what is going on. Maybe Jessica Drew somehow gets zapped with a science ray being used on the spider, so she also gets powers later on, but they're a little different than Peter's powers. What works about this is Sony is clearly trying to make their own MCU, and with this movie, you've now got a few different possible spin-offs. A Black Cat movie where she does some other heists on her own. She accidentally incurs the wrath of Tombstone. Now she has to get creative in trying to take him down while still trying to get away with the loot. Silver Sable movie where she's doing jobs overseas. If you want to get cutesy, you can even reference how bad things are in Sokovia, leaving her with a lot of options for jobs to take. And with Jessica getting some kind of powers in the final raid on WebCore, you can then set her up in a Spider-Woman movie. Maybe even in the absence of Ezekiel Sims, WebCore is still up to shady stuff, and she's trying to take down the company, balancing her life as a private eye who works within the confines of the law, and a costume vigilante who is more free to do what needs to be done to take down the baddies. If you do this, Madam Web is more akin to Nick Fury of the MCU, showing up here and there, acting as connective tissue in the SMEU. Once you've established her here, she could show up in Morbius and Venom sequels, even if it's just for a scene. She does something, it leads to this, leads to that. She helps the protagonist, even if they don't know it. I'm not saying you couldn't ever do a movie all about Madam Web. What I am saying is I don't know how you would go about it, but I think this would be a fun little spin on the superhero genre while still being a part of a sort of established world. And it fulfills director S.J. Clarkson's desire to do something that stands alone, which this basically does. You've got hints at spin-offs, but you don't have to go watch Morbius to understand what's going on here. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, I do other stuff all the time, so check out those videos as well. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day. Catch you later.